Idaho Hook and Hunt. I hope you've enjoyed parts 1 and 2 of the Spring Kokanee seminar featuring Alan Greenhow. Today, this is part number 3. Just as a reminder, I will post the links to Kokabow tackle as well as Idaho rod and reel and Mama Hog rods in the description to this video. Also, the discount code for Mama Hog rods. And part 4 will drop on April the 25th. Enjoy the video, and we will see you next week.
All right, I'm going to go over some boats, rods, reels, net, tackle, and bait. And Chris is, I'm going to turn the time over to Chris here in a bit, because Chris is going to talk to you about some side planer stuff when we get there. So it's always nice to have and he's really good at what he does with that. So, all right, types of boats. Somebody talked to me this morning about a bass boat. One of you guys over here. Yeah. He said, I've got a bass boat. It's not a Kokanee boat. I'm going to stop you a second. I don't know that there's such thing as a Kokanee boat. I could go out in a canoe. I could go out in an inner tube. Chris has got a kayak. There's $200,000 boats that are sitting out here. There's $100 boats on Craigslist. The only thing I'm getting at is Kokanee don't care what you're fishing at. They care less. They're not going to go, I'm not going to hit that boat because that one's only $3,000. I'm going to hit the $30,000 boat. That's not what they do. It's how you present it to them. Am I going at the right speed, at the right depth, having the right colors, combinations, whatever I'm doing, am I doing that correctly? That's all that matters. Is Chris a little more stealthy in the water than I am in my boat? Yeah, because his footprint's a lot smaller than mine. Okay, so he's not making a lot of vibration and sound and noise in the water. They're not hearing and feeling and seeing him the way they are in my boat. So if I go through the water, they're going to scatter out here further. Chris is going to be more, they're going to stay kind of behind him. Will they scatter a little bit? Maybe, but he's really stealthy in that boat. Folks, I cut my teeth in a 12.5-foot boat called a Durable. It was a little yellow boat. Some of you may have seen me years ago. That thing has enough miles to go to the sun and back. Literally. And I caught that crap out of Kokanee with that boat. But I was stealthy. And I was able to maneuver. I mean, much better boat to Kokanee fish out of than mine. And I got a bigger boat, but it's just the way it was. I had to get a bigger boat because my family grew bigger. But the little boats, if you've got a smaller boat, by all means, get it out there. I don't want you sitting on the couch. I can't catch fish from my living room. Okay? So whatever you have, you have. Make sure it floats. Make sure you know how to run it. If you got life jackets, put them on. Chris has got a flag up. Thank you, Chris. If you're running a kayak, a canoe, something that's smaller, low profile in the water, sometimes it's hard to see. Let's say it's foggy. It's early in the morning, late in the evening. Sometimes I can't see them. I'm doing 35, 40 miles an hour, and all of a sudden Chris is in front of me. It's like, uh-oh. I'm in trouble. I'm going to run right over the top of him because Chris didn't have a flag up. So if you're running a lower profile boat like that, make sure you put a flag on it so we know you're there. All right? It's just safety first here. Bigger boats, I can get to where I need to go a lot quicker. It doesn't take me 2 hours to get to where I want to go. I can fish probably more multiple rods, run downriggers, what have you. But the question this morning is do I have to have downriggers? And I'll get into that, and Chris will get into that too. No, we don't have to have downriggers to catch fish. We have ways that we can get you down there, and we're going to show you how to do that without having to have a downrigger. But are they nice? Yeah, because I can target the exact depth with them, but they're not absolutely necessary. It's not. Okay. Again, we talked about the kayaks and the paddlecraft, and then if I can control this boat, that boat control matters. You as the driver, making sure that you can maneuver this boat in the water. Again, Kokanee can be caught from any platform. Rods and reels. Let's talk about that a second. I like to run Kokanee rods that are roughly around 8 feet long. You're going to find Kokanee rods out there that some are over 9 feet long. We're seeing a lot of anglers that are using fly rods. 10-foot fly rod, all right? And they're having a blast using their fly rods, catching Kokanee on the surface. So I'm not saying don't take your fly rod, it's just something different, might be fun. Yeah, but we're running 8-foot rods. Multiple eyelets on the rod. I'm not running a spinning rod. I'm running a bait casting rod. This is an 8-footer, okay? Now there are rods that have quite a bit of graphite in them, and there's a lot of rods that have just nothing but glass in them. So a graphite rod is going to be a little stiffer, but it's going to be really fragile. It's going to be brittle, if I can say that. You'll bust them if there's way too much graphite in them. But on a glass rod, and it's nothing but glass, you'll be able to bend that rod in half. Then I don't have a lot of control with a fish that, let's just say it's a 16, 18-inch hog up at, let's say it's on Anderson at the time, with a really, really super sloppy rod. I'm not going to be able to control that fish very well and say, hey, I want you to go over there. And he's looking at me going, I'm not going over there. And I'm saying, yeah, you are. And he goes, no, I'm not. And you can't make me. And you're right, I can't, because my rod isn't the type of rod to make it. But if I have the right rod, I'd say, you know what, you're going with me and watch this. And he follows me, okay, because I have that enough power in my rod to do that. So when I say to find a rod, you want to find a rod and you want to bend it and you want to see if there's any power in the rod. And that rod power is right here. So if I'm bending this rod, you can see that this entire rod doesn't lay all the way over clear to the reel seat, because there still is enough right in here for me to push that fish over to the left or to the right if I wanted him to. All right, so when you go into a sporting goods store, you can put your hand back here if you want, and you can bend it, and you can say, okay, you bend it too much, you'll snap it in half. But your fishing managers will cry when they see you do this. But that just kind of gives you an indication that there is a little bit of graphite in this, but there's also a glass mixture. All right, so just bend it and say, okay, I'm going to put it on a downrigger, and this is kind of what it's going to look like on a downrigger. All right, but it's got, I think this one has over 13 eyelets on it. Keeps the line away from the rod. This entire rod will load on the downrigger. It's really a nice rod to load. The whole rod will load. So, but a great rod to control a fish. But this one is 8 feet long. If you're in a smaller boat, 8 feet might be a little too long for you. So there are rods that are 7 feet, 7.5 feet. So look for that. But multiple eyelets. Make sure that it doesn't have too much graphite. I'm going to pick on Okuma. Who knows what an Okuma SST rod is? It's a brown SST rod. You can have a couple of them. I got them in my garage if you want them. We've busted way too many of them when they came out. It's just way too much graphite, okay? There's a lot of graphite. So if I really crank that rod down on my downrigger, it'll snap them. So you gotta be really careful. If you know that it's got a lot of graphite, be careful with it, you'll bust them. And they bust like nobody's business. So, it doesn't have very much glass in it at all. So just test it out, play with it, bend it a little bit, kind of see, does it have the flexibility, but it does have enough strength down by the reel seat that I can control fish. Okay. The drag, okay, so then we're going to talk about reels. I highly recommend you buy reels that have a line counter on them. It's not 100% necessary that you have a line counter. But it really takes a lot of the guesswork out of how far out am I. If I'm targeting a certain length out behind my boat, let's say I'm catching fish at 80 feet behind the boat, I want to go out 80 feet all the time if I know that 80 feet is working, versus trying to take and pull and going 2, 4, 6, 8, I can do that, but it takes a lot more time and it's not quite as accurate. So be looking for a reel that has a line counter on it, okay? The other thing that you want to look for is the light drags on them. So does that reel have the ability to really set the drag light, so if that fish wants to take off and run with me, he's got some resistance, but it's allowing that line to be pulling off of that reel. The other thing that we like to do is there's a line clicker that's on reels. You'll see this, there's a little button on this reel right here. Okay, and so what I want to do, if I depress the release and I put the line clicker on, listen. You can kind of hear it, it's grabbing it as it goes. It goes click, 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 click. So if I'm running my downrigger down and I put my line clicker on, it will lower it into the water without this reel bird's nesting. It holds the line from backlashing and bird's nesting. And then you can either leave the line clicker on or you can turn the line clicker off when you get it set where you want it. But that's just a nice feature to keep that line from backlashing on the reel, and it ended up being a mess. Yeah. The thing about it, folks, is we want equipment that don't turn into messes, because we're spending way too much time on the water trying to fix messes and we're not fishing. So get the equipment that allows you to fish and not get you into a mess. Okay, so now we have a speed handle right here, and I have a reel that has a power handle on it. So a speed handle is a quicker retrieval. I can bring that line in a little quicker, but I don't have the torque that I have with a power handle. It's kind of personal preference. I fish with both of them. Believe it or not, I kind of like the power handle. I know that kind of sounds funny, but that's just my personal preference. Okay, my hand fits on it better, and I feel like I have better control. But there are two different kind of handles, and you need to put your hands on them to try to determine what you kind of like. The other thing I highly recommend is you don't get a reel that's so big on your rod that it outbalances that rod. So this is a fairly good sized reel. I would never go any bigger than this. I think I bought it because it's got pink on it, and my wife has a pink rod at home. So, but I don't fish it. We also have smaller reels. This is Alexa 100. I have Alexa 300. It's a little bit bigger over there. But again, a little bit difference in line retrieval, but make sure when you put it on your rod that it's not really super heavy and you can't balance that in your hand. You want it to be balanced. You don't want it to sit there and be so heavy that it's falling either way. Yeah, we don't run great big heavy reels when we kokanee fish. Most of our equipment is smaller, lighter, so it's just you and the fish, versus trying to battle the heaviness or the, whatever we're running for rods or reels. And it's, I've had folks that have come to my house, they've brought steelhead rods. They've brought sturgeon rods. Will this work? No. I'm going to give you another warning. You're going to go to your local sporting goods stores, and I'm not picking on which ones they are, but you probably know what I'm talking about. And they're going to want to sell you a combo kit. It's a combo rod and reel for $49.99. Greatest buy ever. And you bring it to me, and the thing weighs 100 pounds, and it's huge. You still got the receipt because you're taking it back. That's not what no. They made the sell on it, and they made it sound like it was a great deal, but you're going to hate it. We don't go elk hunting with a 22, do we? Can we? Yeah. Are we going to be successful with a 22? Probably not. And it's no different in fishing. I can get you on a Mickey Mouse rod, and you can take your sturgeon rod out there, and yeah, but are you going to fill the fish? No. Are you going to have any fun? No. No. It isn't until you get the right equipment in your hand. You find the right rod, the right reel, and now you're having a blast. Now you're feeling the fish. Your success rate is better because I'm being able to tell what that fish is doing. When he starts humping and bumping, and your rod is going like this, and that's how they fight. They sit and twist and turn. I can feel that in my rod. And that sometimes I just quit reeling. I don't need to reel, I'm still trolling. Okay? But I want him to sit there and hump and bump. Eventually he's going to slow down. But if I got the wrong rod, I wouldn't know if he was there or not. I get this all the time. Well, I drug him around for 30 minutes and I didn't even know I had one on. I didn't even know. Well, first of all, did you see your rod go down when he hit it? No. No, it just, I don't know. Something's wrong. I don't know what's going on. It's your tackle. What? No, it's the wrong equipment. Your rod's not showing that little fish because your rod's super heavy. You didn't watch the hit. Okay, so we're not pointing fingers where we shouldn't be pointing fingers to. We should be pointing fingers at and saying, I've got the wrong stuff on. My equipment's not right. So you lighten your rods up. You get reels that have a light drag, that have a line counter on there, and then you're in business. Okay? It does matter. Okay. Some of you have been to my seminars. I've been doing these for 13 years. And this is the 13th year that I tell this story, and so I'm going to continue to tell because this is the truth. We're on Lucky Peak Reservoir up here. It's in the spring. My wife and I are out fishing, and I look over, and there's a 16-foot boat with a man and a woman. I know who they were. He was fishing, had a kokanee on. He had his rod up here, and he's got the rod is bent, and he's fighting this fish, and he's laying out over the edge of his boat, and she has a hold of his ankles. Okay, now I'm watching all this happen. He's over here, he's laying out there, and he's got this net. This is the absolute net that he was using. Okay, so he's out here like this. He's laying over the edge of the gunnel. She's got a hold of his ankles so that he doesn't fall in, and he's trying to net this fish, and he's using this. Now, we didn't know if we were going to have to throw the life preserver over there because we didn't know if he was going in. Because I'm serious, I was a little bit afraid that this boat was going to tip over. Because, again, he's hunting elk with a 22. He's got the wrong equipment. Okay? So what you want to do is you want to get the net that best fits your boat so that you can retrieve the fish as far away from the boat as you possibly can. Come on. Right. It's locked up, Chris.
That's the same problem with mine. Exactly like that.
I need to oil it. There you go. Okay. This is the net that I put on my boat because it fits my boat. But this isn't going to fit everybody's boat. Okay. I'm able to reach out and retrieve this fish when he's that far away from the boat. So that now that he's coming and swimming toward my boat, they start to hear and feel and see you, and they're going to go ballistic on you. Okay. They will give you one last hurrah. You're going to see this fish coming into the boat, and he's going to be kind of turned over on his back, and you're going to say, well, I got him. Well, no, you don't. Not yet. Because the way Kokanee work is the closer they get to the boat, they're going to give you that one last hurrah. And they're going to spin like hell, and they're going to give you that one last, I'm going to get you, and a lot of times we lose our fish the closer they get to the boat. So one of the reasons that I want to get out there and try to retrieve them before they get too close to my boat, and I don't run that little net, okay? So I want that net to reach out and try to retrieve them. One thing I'm going to tell you about netting is do not put your net head in the water until you're ready to retrieve the fish, okay? So I'm standing up there, and again, I raise the net up in the air because here they come, and then here you all come to ruin my day. You been there? I see some people shaking their heads going, I know what you're talking about. What is it about when a net goes up in the water, up in the air, that everybody has to come over on top of you? Can anybody answer that question for me? Because I don't know. I've been looking for an answer for years. The minute the net goes up in the air, everybody comes. Well, let me give you a little secret. You come over where I'm landing that fish, you just ruined my day, and you're not going to get any more than where you were over there. Because we're all collecting around each other. Now we have how many fish finders are pinging in the water? How much, action, how much movement, how much sound are we now collecting around each other, and we think that we're going over there to catch fish. No, you're not. You're better off in staying off on your own somewhere, more stealthy over there where you're not being surrounded by people. You're going to catch a lot more kokanee than if you decide that you just got a dead head over and ruin Chris's day because you pulled in on top of it. Okay? This happens way too much. So be careful. Well, he's got his net up. Stay where you're at. Because you too will get a net up if you hold your mouth for it. And if you don't, then go find an area where they might be hanging out where you're not collecting around one another. I'm off my soapbox for a minute. Okay? All right. So again, a rubber basket. If you notice, this net is hookless. It has a rubber net in it. The one thing I don't want you to do is get a net like this and then your hooks are buried in your net and you're spending 30 minutes trying to get your hooks out of your net because you're not fishing when you're doing that because you've got the wrong net. All right? So you want a hookless net. They don't get caught in this. They unbuckle right now. So be careful with the kind of nets that you have and make sure that it gets away from your boat far enough that you're retrieving that fish without it flying off. Now, Chris and I are talking to each other. I'm picking on you, Chris, but we're talking to each other. Okay, let's just say I'm bringing in the fish. Chris has got the net up. Here y'all come. And I'm saying, Chris, you got to get your net. Get ready, get ready. Don't put it in the water yet. I'm coming, I'm coming. Here he comes, here he comes. Now. Now. And then he puts it in, and I'll put that fish into the net. Versus having Chris hold the net in the water going, come to me, come to me, come to me. No. No. Because that fish can hear and feel and see that, and then they really go ballistic. So wait until you're ready and you're talking to each other. Unless you're alone, and then that can be tricky too. But if you're working with each other, you'll get more fish. All right. Recommended fishing line for kokanee. I'm running monofilm. I'm not telling you that you can't run braid. I'm not here to tell you that you can't run fluorocarbon. I'm not here to tell you that. I can tell you this. We know for a fact kokanee are not leader shy. Did I ask that fish that? No. We just have an idea because we have ran lead cord virtually right down to our hooks. They don't care about that line. They're locked in on that lure. The Dodgers or whatever we're running for attractors have brought them in, and then they will absolutely lock into the lure. Now, we do have cameras that we have put on our lines right above our Dodgers, and we're videoing what's going on down there. I want to know. Now, I wish it was live, real time, but I have to bring home the SD card and I plug it into my computer, and I can actually watch everything that was going on. Typically, these kokanee will come in. They'll even head slap or tail bump your Dodgers. You're going to get that bang bang sometimes. You're going to pull it up, and they didn't even touch my corn or my maggots or whatever I'm running. We know for a fact, I've got videos of them coming in and tail slapping or head bumping the Dodgers. It makes them mad. They come in and smack it. Well, that's going to make my rod go down a little bit. But then they'll come in behind me, and then they start swimming. As my Dodgers are going from side to side, that little lure that you have back there, whatever you're running, is following along with the movement. And the fish will start to swim in unison with that little lure, coochie, squid, whatever you're running. Spinner, they're locked in on it, and they're waiting for something to make a little bit of a variance, and then they pound it. We have watched where they get bored, and they've been swimming with you, you didn't even know they were there, and then they just leave. And they have their buddies with them. It's not just one fish, there's multiple fish that are down there. But I didn't do anything as the boat driver to make them mad, and they just left because I didn't do anything. I didn't speed up, I didn't make a direction change, nothing, and they left. So that's telling me I have that responsibility as that boat driver that I've got to get this boat moving around, speeding up, slowing down. If you get the tap tap on your rod, you better listen. They just told you that they're behind you. They just knocked at the door. You better be ready to answer the door. They may not come back. They may get the bounce. Oh crap, I better bring my stuff up. Did they steal my corn? No, they didn't. They just let you know they were there. When you see the tap tap, you better start doing something with your boat. Okay, move this boat around a little bit, speed up, slow down. Pay attention to what speed did they hit at. And I'm going to get into that in a second. All right. So I want to go to this monofilament stuff. We run monofilament. It's got some stretch to it. Kokanee have super soft mouths. They do. And their mouths are soft, and it'll rip it right out of their mouths. If you're fighting heavily with them, they're trying to pull away, you're trying to pull them in. That force is going to rip it out of their mouths. If I don't have the right rod set up as a shock absorber, it'll rip it out of their mouths. One of the reasons I run monofilament, because I know they're not leader shy, so I don't need fluorocarbon. I certainly don't need to have braid down there. I'm catching a fish that's no more than 2 pounds. Around this area, if I go up to Washington or over to Flaming Gorge, yeah, they can get 5, 6, sometimes 7 pounds. But I should be able to land a fish with monofilament at 7 pounds. Do I have to have braid? No. You can run it if you want. But it's going to be a bugger when you hang something up in the rocks and then you're trying to break it, you're trying to get it out, you're going to end up cutting it. Okay, so it's not necessary that you have to have it. I'm not saying don't run it, but we don't, because we want to have a line that has a little bit of shock absorption in it, and mono does. It also helps improve the hook retention and the landing ratio if I have a little bit of play in there. Heavier leaders, we're running 12-pound leaders on our tackle that we manufacture. We could go up to 15, but the heavier the leader, the more action it's going to have. It's not as flimsy in the water. So as the Dodger's swinging, it's following along because this is heavy. If it's super light leader, like a 6-pound leader, 4-pound leader, it's so sloppy that it won't stay up with the Dodger. So my recommendation is not to run a super light leader. Lead core line. I don't know anybody in here. Is there anybody in here, I should say, that still runs lead core? Because it's still popular. Okay? I've got some lead core line that's up here. Whoops, sorry. But you'll notice that lead core comes in colors. If you look at this reel or this spool of line, you're going to see colors. So every color is 10 yards or 30 feet. Every color. They put 10 colors on a spool. I can tell you this. Anything between 12-pound lead core and 18-pound lead core, the sink rate is the same. The tensile strength is different, but the sink rate's the same. So to say, well, I'm going to go put 18-pound on my reel because it's going to sink faster, the answer is no, it's not. It's stronger because the tensile strength is up to 18 pounds. So the poundage is not the pound of lead, it's the poundage of tensile strength and the material wrapped around the lead. So you're going to put more lead core on your reel if it's 12-pound lead core than you are 18-pound lead core, because the diameter of the line is smaller at 12-pound lead core. All right? Now, the sink rate for every color between 12 and 18 pounds roughly is 5 feet, if I'm trolling at about 1.3, 1.4. So every color under the water sinks 5 feet. So if you call me on the phone and say, hey Alan, I'm running 5 colors of lead core, the first question I'm asking you is, you have 5 colors of lead core under the water? Or is it 5 colors at your reel? Because if it's 5 colors at your reel, you don't have 5 colors under the water, because that 5th color and possibly some of the 4th color is out of the water. It's what's under the water. So that can help determine how deep you want to go fish. And then you have to take into account, what am I using for an attractor? Am I running pop gear? Am I running Dodgers? What do they weigh? And is it driving it down even more? So write this down, think of this. If you're a lead core guy, every color, it drops 5 feet for between 12 and 18 pound lead core. And it's still used out there today. We're getting more away from it than we ever have, but it still shows up on boats. Okay? And then make sure you check your line yearly. Always run your hands up and look at your line, making sure that that line is in good condition before you decide to fish it for the next year. Strip it off that reel and start over again for the new year. That way you're assuring yourself that you've got some stuff that's going to work and you're not going to lose fish, break stuff off. So just pay attention to that. All right, I'm going to turn the time over to Chris for a second, because Chris is going to talk to you about planer board, how he fishes away from the boat. Okay? As I said before, Chris is really stealthy. He's not going to push a lot of fish way out here. I am. And so sometimes I've got to go way out here to try to get them, because I shoved them out here. They're swimming up here on the surface. Okay, or close to the surface, not on the surface, but let's say they're 10 feet below the surface. I just went through them. Where are they going? Whoosh. I just shoved them out off to the side. They were in here feeding. This is where they were feeding. I just disrupted where they were feeding, and they went out here. Chris is going to talk to you how he goes out here and he tries to get these fish out here when we push them out.
All right, thank you, Alan.
Yep.
Can I interrupt? It's a good chance
Go ahead.
for a break, and you want to pick a name for our next lucky winner of a $100 gift certificate? So we're giving out some goodies. We got Rick Linehan. You still here? No Rick. No name. Going. We got no name. All right. Gary Brenner. There we go. All right. You can take over.
All right, you guys hear me all right? Yeah? Okay.
Before I get into the planer board fishing, just one other thing I want to mention. Alan mentioned at the beginning, this is being taped today. This is we're making video with this today. It's going on my YouTube channel. It's a brand new YouTube channel. So, you know, if you have anybody that couldn't make it today that really wanted to be here, or you know, maybe you're not taking notes and there's stuff you want to go back and review, this is going to be on my YouTube channel. The channel is Idaho Hook and Hunt. I'm not going to put it all up in one video though. This is, you know, usually 2 to 3 hours long. It'll go up probably in half-hour segments. I'll do one every week. Probably the first one will go up next Saturday. Then every Saturday after that, I'll get one out for you. And if any of you want the link to the channel, talk to me afterwards. I've got it. I'll give it to you so you can get on there. You know, subscribe to the channel. You'll get half-hour segments or so every week for the next few weeks to review all this information. The other thing about my channel is essentially what it is I'm giving you all this information from out there on the water. That's what I do with my channel, is try and get this information out to you while I'm out fishing. So, so now I'll go into a little bit of the planer board stuff like Alan was talking about. Now, Alan's mentioned multiple times that the kayak is mine. You can see also here I do have a boat as well. And that's what I'm going to be talking about with my planer board setup. A little bit of background about me. I've been pro staff for Alan now for the past 5 years. I've been kokanee fishing for almost 10. I first learned about kokanee fishing from Alan years ago when he was doing this same seminar in Sportsman's Warehouse where I was working part-time. I'm also a chiropractor in Middleton. I work there part-time just to keep my discount there. But anyway, I met Alan when he was doing seminars in Sportsman's Warehouse. I didn't at the time have a boat, but I sat in, listened to it, found it interesting. And then I got my boat, caught my first kokanee, ate my first kokanee, and decided, okay, I'm a kokanee fisherman. Because there's no better freshwater fish to eat than kokanee. But anyway, something about me is I'm always trying to improve. When I get passionate about something, like I am with kokanee fishing, I'm always trying to find ways to be better at it. And so like Alan was talking about, the conventional wisdom with kokanee, especially this time of year when they're shallow, is as you come through with the boat, those fish scatter in front of the boat. They scatter out to the sides. Well then, as you go by, they tend to come back in behind you. That's why this time of year, if you're long lining, you want to be 100, 120 feet back behind the boat. But the thought that I had is, well, what about those, you know, if those fish scatter and maybe they weren't actively feeding right there in that spot, maybe you didn't disturb a food source, what reason do they necessarily have to come back in? They might not all come back in behind you. And so I knew that I was familiar with the concept of planer boards, but not a lot of people in this area do it. I knew that they do a lot more planer board fishing like on the Great Lakes for salmon and other species on the Great Lakes. Anyway, so I was intrigued by the idea. And so what I did first is I went out and bought a couple of little inline planer boards just like this, okay? When I say inline planer board, what I mean is this is a planer board that attaches to your line. So the way it works is you're gonna, you know, you let your line out, you know, say 50 feet of line out behind the boat, and then you're gonna clip your line into these two clips. The back one has a little peg in it so it can't come off. The front one's meant to release. So you clip it in, this one goes out to the right side of the boat, you drop it in the water, it pulls away from the boat, you let it get out there 40, 50 feet away from the boat, and then you let it cruise out there so it's, you know, 40, 50 feet out to the side and then 50 feet behind the board. Well, I started running these back in, I believe it was 2021 or 2022, this time of the year, in the early spring. And what I found is about 8 out of 10 of my strikes were coming on the planer boards. Now then I had the dilemma, because they hit that planer board and see things start going backwards in the water, so you know you have a fish on. So then what you do is you pop the line out of the front clip, but then you're still hanging by this back clip. You gotta drag that into the boat, take this off, and then you're free to fight the kokanee. Well, what I found is I was getting a lot of hits on them, but I was losing about 50% of the fish that I hooked. And so I wasn't satisfied with that. Now, when I bought these, I was already thinking, if this works, I want a planer board system for my boat. Well, it worked. I only ran these for 1 year. It worked, and so after using these, I decided I was gonna build a planer board system for my boat. Now, I built mine. I kind of like the DIY thing. I like building my own stuff if I can. And so what I did is I built a system. Whoop, there we go. And this is what I built right here. Now, You can buy these as well. It's probably cheaper than it cost me to build mine, but I decided to build mine. It's basically just 1 1/4 inch steel conduit. At the bottom, got a couple of these Penn M309 level wind reels. They're fairly cheap. And then it's just downrigger cable. 75 feet of downrigger cable on each one with a downrigger release on the end of it. And this goes in the front hole on my boat. So it goes in the front seat hole on the boat. And then it's about 6 feet tall, a little less than 6 feet tall. Little pulleys up there so the line, that cable can run out smoothly. And it runs out to a wooden planer board, which I built. I measured these just the other day for one of my YouTube videos. I know these are 24 inches. You know, each board is 24 inches, slightly offset. So this one is the left-hand planer board. You clip it in, pulls out to the left-hand side of the boat. You know, let it out as far as you want to let it out, 40, 50 feet up to the side of the boat. Now then what you might wonder is, with that big board, how then do I, you know, how do you get the fish loose? Well, the answer is, I can find it down here. I know I've got one in the bottom of my pocket. The answer is these little clips right here, okay? What this is just a little offshore tackle planer board, or not planer board, downrigger clip. Little yellow downrigger clip. If you're familiar with downriggers, you know what these are. And it's just on a shower curtain hook, okay? So the way this works is just like that inline planer board. You're gonna let back your line, say 50 feet of line. Once you let back your line, you clip your line in the little downrigger clip. Then you take that shower curtain hook, put it on the cable, open the bail on your reel, and you let it slide out that cable as far as you want it to go. You can go all the way out to the board. You can go halfway out to the board, as far out as you want to go. I can run 2 or 3 lines on one planer board if I want to, by sending them out different distances away from the boat. But then when the fish takes, line comes free of that little clip. And from the very beginning, there's nothing to drag in. The fish is free. It's just like if you're fishing a downrigger. If you're familiar with running downriggers, works exactly the same way. Fish comes free. You're just fighting the fish. The clip slides out there to the board, and I just start another clip on when I put it back out again. I've got about 20 of these that I have on my boat. So I just, you know, when I've got 20 of them out there at the boards, then I got to pull the board back in, but not until there's 20 of them out on the boards. A couple things about, well, I'm going to show you the video first of all. This is my boat. You can see the planer board all the way out there on the left side of the boat. This little yellow dot out there, that's the board. This is a clip from a couple years ago. We'll hit play here. So there's the board out there. That red rod is attached to that planer board. The mast is right there in the center of the boat. And then I've got the other board out here on the right side. You'll see it right at the end of this video here. There it is right out there. And I've been using these now for the last four or 5 years, and they work great. Now, one thing about them, they're especially good this time of year when fish are shallow. However, last year, I wanted, you know, a lot of times I have multiple people on my boat, you know, 3 or 4 of us on the boat. Well, my boat is an 18-foot boat, and it's got enough room, but you know, when you've got 3 guys and everybody's got a 2-pole permit, that's 6 rods you can potentially put out there. It's tough to put out 6 rods. Well, what I found is using my planer board system, I can also put rods out and use these little snap weights on my line. So I can put a snap weight on, run it out, then attach it to the planer board and send it out. And I can still get down about 25 feet even on my planer boards out to the side of my boat. Works great all the way until the fish. I'm not gonna go much deeper than about 30 feet running my planer boards and snap weights, but I can get down to even about 30 feet running those. But one thing I will say, you know, this time of year it's rarely an issue. There's not a lot of traffic on the lakes this time of year. But if you're gonna run planer boards, you know, you gotta keep in mind, I'm running those out to the side. I might be running as far as, you know, this time of year, I might run 50 feet out to the side. I'm covering 100 feet of water with my boat, okay? If there's other boats out there, I'm not gonna do that, okay? If there's a lot of boat traffic, I may still run them, but I'm only gonna run them 20 feet out to the side, and I'm gonna stay away from all the other boats. I'm gonna give them their space. I'm not going to be that guy that's running through the narrows on Anderson Ranch or on Lucky Peak, taking up the whole reservoir, okay? So planer boards work really well. I really enjoy doing them, but it's important that if you're gonna do them, be courteous, be mindful that you're taking up more water than you normally would, and just, you know, don't expect others to go around you, go around them yourself. Anybody have any questions about planer board fishing specifically? All right, I'll turn the time back over to Alan.
Thanks.
And I'll be around to answer questions afterwards as
Yeah,
well.
we'll get, that's what he looks like, yeah. You have a, and kind of an image there. He's running multiple rods out, how he's got the rods kind of set up. They're staggered, they're not right on top of each other. But he's running those lines down that cable.